Hi everyone, it's Nichol Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today I have another Handmade Holiday 2021 video to share with you. I am revisiting one of my most popular designs ever for Handmade Holiday, which was done years and years ago, like maybe the first year. I would have to look that back up. I will definitely link that down below. Monogram gift tags, but we are going to obviously kind of kick them up a notch, modernize, I guess, that original design, even though I still super love it, but we're going to do it with some foiling. And actually, I'm going to be using a lot of leftover foiling. Even though I'm using leftover foiling from my live video, which will be linked down below, and that kind of gives you all the tips, tricks on all the foiling as well as the reverse foiling. I'm going to be using lots of leftover from some foil projects. All of those are going to be linked down below from previous projects, but we're going to be using some like ornament shaped tags from both Lawn Fawn and Simon Says Stamp to create our base ornament. And then of course we've got our florals. I'm going to create more of those. Even though I'm using the leftovers, I don't have quite enough to create all of my gift tags. So I'm kind of showing you how I've laid them out. We have 3 different styles. I have done all of mine in reds, whites, and greens, really traditional. We're going to do everything from a pretty simple gift tag to a more I would say a little bit more embellished. And I've got my Glimmer hot foil machine from Spellbinders warming up right now. The green ready light is on. So we're gonna take the Ina's Alphabet hot foil plates from PinkFresh Studio, and we are going to foil them with our foil. So I know that I'm not exactly foiling the outline first here, but I have already done that for another project or previously. And so we're actually going to take that extra piece of foil and we are going to foil the solid piece with the solid foil plate, which is going to give us the solid foiled letters. Now, I was showing you there is a coordinating stamp set. If you do not have a hot foil machine, if you don't do the foiling or the glimmer, you can always stamp and emboss or just stamp the outline and use the stencils to decorate. There's a lot of ways to do this. I foiled mine because I really thought the foil was elegant, but I think you could do this with lots of other techniques, as I mentioned, embossing, stenciling, all that good stuff, and it's going to be amazing. So the solid plate allows you to create these beautiful solid foiled alphabets. You have to foil the outline first, and then you take the solid plate and foil that leftover piece of foil, and you get the solid. Now I'm going to take the coordinating die and die cut my alphabet, and then that's going to give me a whole bunch. Now, again, mine were left over, so I only shared a brief little bit of that on camera, but kind of keep in mind that's how that was created. I am linking to that video at the end of this where I do it live, which means it's much more slow and in-depth. I am going to show, though, the stamping, stenciling of the beautiful PinkFresh Studio Poinsettia stamp. One thing about the long slimline style stamps from PinkFresh Studio is that they are going to work so much better if you have a Memory Misty. I know not everyone has one of these readily available. I think the name Memory Misty makes everyone think scrapbooking. I honestly have found it has come in really handy as a lot of the companies are making bigger and bigger stamps, and as the slimline kind of phase has really caught on, or the slimline kind of trend, I guess I should say, has caught on. So it is very handy. You definitely don't have to. You can make it work with a regular Misty, or I'm sure there's other little tips and tricks and ways you can get these to work. I'm just simply sharing how I did this. I will tell you, I am going to stamp this image twice. I'm using the fog cardstock from Lawn Fawn, and I'm stamping this once on that fog cardstock. I've just trimmed an 8.5 by 11 piece of fog cardstock in half lengthwise, and I'm going to sprinkle on silver embossing powder. Then I'm going to stamp it again, and we're going to sprinkle on gold embossing powder. This is going to leave us with all of these pieces. Something I want to note, so I know I mentioned this a little bit ago. I had some leftover pieces from previous projects. Leftovers are fantastic for tags. Often you don't need maybe as many coordinating pieces to put together as you might for a card. So you're going to notice that I am kind of piecing some of those pieces into this to make it work, but I am going to end up with some leftovers. The wreath, for example, is too big for these tags, and I think it works really well on a card, but it works to go ahead and stamp all of these because it is a single stamp, and then stencil them all, die cut them because the die cut is one die cut. It's amazing. I'll show you that in a minute. And I am going to have leftover pieces. So I have a video coming that's going to incorporate all of these leftover pieces with all of the leftover pieces from my PinkFresh Studio Live, where I showed how to use that solid hot foil plate, because I had a lot of leftover pieces. We were making more foiling types of tips and tricks rather than making complete cards, which left me with a lot of leftover pieces. And that video is coming because I have all of those leftovers and I want to show you how you actually can use them. So definitely stay tuned for that. That is coming very, very soon. And that's just going to be more of a bonus type of video, not handmade holiday or anything like that, because there's going to be some non-holiday cards in that as well. So here's my second background. We're switching over to the gold embossing powder for this one. It is a ton of embossing, but oh my goodness, you guys, so worth it. So let's say you want to kind of maybe not do the embossing step to eliminate a little bit of time. Maybe you just want to stamp this and then get straight on to the stenciling. You can definitely do that. Don't worry about the stamping and embossing, especially if you're running low on time. I would highly just recommend stamping it with a black outline ink, going ahead and stenciling, die cutting, and going on your way. I will say with this particular stamp set, and I have used this in both a live on PinkFresh Studio with the crafty chat with Jeff, and also on my own channel. This is a stamp that you probably want to use, or pardon me, a stencil or an image you're going to want to use the stamp with, simply because there's a lot of detail in this that is not available with the stencil. With some of the PinkFresh Studio stencils in particular, you don't have to use the coordinating stamp set with it. And you wouldn't have to here if you don't want to, but just keep in mind some of like the little twigs and greenery and things like that are not going to be in the stenciled final image. Okay, I know my stencils have a red tint to them. I actually loaned them out and they didn't come back the cleanest. So I want to tell you that they are not stained. I really thought maybe they were stained and maybe they weren't going to come super clean. I used them as is because I was using red ink and I wasn't worried that the ink might come off and ruin my project because I'm using some reds and green ink. When I am completely done stenciling, I was pleasantly surprised that they came completely clean, with the exception of the actual cutout, flowers and leaves and stuff, because sometimes the ink just sticks along that cut edge and doesn't come off no matter what. But the rest of the stencil is completely clean with a little warm water and dish soap. So I definitely wanted to make note of that. I am using PinkFresh Studio inks. Yes, I am. I absolutely love them. I get asked all the time if I love their inks, and yes, I do. I am using for the flowers. The two layers there are BERRYLICIOUS and Candy Apple, and then we're going to use Olive and Evergreen for the greenery. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same stencil on both backgrounds at a time. So I want to really show this. On the left is the silver embossing, on the right is the gold embossing. Then we're going to move on to the layering, or is this the layering? I think maybe I realized I have the wrong stencil, so I've got to go back and go through them. And I do have the wrong stencil. This is a good note. So stencil 1 is the base flower for the flowers on all these panels, but some of the flowers are too close to the others for the original stencil. So stencil 2 is the base flower for the remaining 4 flowers that didn't fit with that first stencil. So again, I'm going to grab BERRYLICIOUS and I am going to stencil the base of these flowers really quickly. And then I'm going to set this aside. And we'll move on to our third stencil. And yes, this is the base of the greenery. What I love is PinkFresh Studio numbers their stencils. if you like to work out of order, you can totally do that. Maybe you want to do the base and then the layering for the flowers before moving on. I generally just kind of follow the numbers of the stencils, especially if it's the first time, because it really does help. So my base color for my greenery is olive. And it doesn't look great here when the stencil's laying over, but when I remove it, oh my goodness. These are just beautiful, beautiful images. And something else to note, I love stenciling on a colored cardstock. I know this is a really light cardstock, but light gray works really amazing. So here we have our base color of green. And we will add that to the second panel. And I do think I lay them side by side because whether you are a gold or a silver lover or both, I loved the difference that the embossing made. Stencil 4. So this is going to be the layering of the greenery or filling in anything that we have not already stenciled. This time we're going to use evergreen. I'm using super traditional colors. They're going to match the traditional colors of the cardstock and things that I have already die cut over there along the right side of the screen. So much fun. We're just going to ink all of this up. Amazing, amazing. I don't know about you guys, but stenciling and layered stenciling in particular is my favorite. So pretty. So let's go ahead and do that on the second panel as well. And probably you would not have had to do both if you didn't want to. I probably could have gotten by with just one of these, but I decided to go ahead and do two while I had all the supplies out because like I said, I have that second video coming where I'm going to use all my parts and pieces, and I thought, you know, we are just going to use up or go ahead and create enough of these that I can use these on my cards. Okay, my second, or the layering piece, pardon me, for the poinsettias. So this is going to be my darker color. This is going to be the candy apple. And I'm going to use a pretty heavy hand, and we're just going to go over each of these. I'm just kind of moving all the way down. And there's Odin snoring in the background. Apparently this is a super riveting video. Alrighty. Look at all those little filled in areas. How beautiful is this? I absolutely love this set. I know you guys have loved it too. My previous videos where I have shown this or used this, I know you guys have really, really loved it. It is a beautiful, beautiful set. All right. I am going to go ahead then. Let's grab both of these and set them side by side. Look at that die. It's going to die cut all of these pieces. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different pieces, I believe. Now, I really feel like obviously the wreath and then the largest floral cluster are way too big for the tags, but all the rest is fair game. All the rest of the size of things is going to be used. I'm just going to set the wreaths to the side. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Hopefully you can see the detail a little bit closer now that I'm not trying to use that large stencil set and the Memory Misty and all of that. You can see the big pieces I'm just going to move over to the side, and all the small pieces I'm going to kind of gather up and figure out which ornament they're going to go on. We are going to work on the ornaments one set at a time. I have 3 sets of 3. First up, we have our Lawn Fawn stitched ornaments. We're going to be using the largest ornament die from this set. We're also going to be using the tag top, and we're also going to use the little argyle or diamond pattern. I showed you that I actually thought I would use the stitching die, and I did use the stitching die along this front, but I think it gets lost. I don't think it shows very well, and I decided that I wasn't going to use that, but I was also not going to die cut another ornament. So I'm simply covering this up with the gold die cut diamond pattern. This is the Simon Says stamp matte gold cardstock that I used to die cut not only the diamond pattern, but the tag topper. And we're going to do this for 3 tag fronts. So 3 of each style. I'm starting with the most detailed monogram ornament and moving to the most simple. They all have a lot of the same kind of steps to them, but you'll see that this one definitely has the most pieces on it. After I have gone ahead and adhered my diamonds, I'm going to glue the tag topper or ornament topper to the top. And we're going to do this for each of the fronts. Assembly line style at its best right here. And let me grab one of these. So this is going to have stuff on the front and stuff on the back. Oh, and I know the other thing I wanted to mention, I am using some of the Fawn textured cardstock. So instead of maybe stamping a background stamp on the ornament, which I would be prone to do because I really love like some texture, I used a textured cardstock, which is tone on tone, those little dots, which eliminates the need to maybe do a background stamp, which I had considered before doing this, but I thought it took too long. Then we're going to grab a beautiful little floral cluster and one of our monogram foiled letters. And it does not matter which ones. However, I would recommend if you're going to use gold accents, use something embossed with gold and use a foiled gold letter or a foiled red letter. I know I didn't foil the red on camera, but I have loads of leftover red and I thought both gold and red foiled monograms looked awesome. Use whatever monograms work for your family. I'm using my kids' initials, I'm using my initial, or anyone like that in my family that has these initials. A lot of us have the same initials. Like there's a bunch of E's. My niece and nephew both have E names. My sister-in-law is an N as well. So it's really funny. The only tag I did not do is my brother. I didn't do any W tags. So, oh well, he'll forgive that. So I used a lot of the monograms, obviously, that will work for my family. You're going to want to use what works for yours. I have a fun idea for using up leftover monograms or alphabets that you may not be using for cards. I'm going to include that in that video that's coming with my leftover foiled pieces, but I will tell you, create an all over text background or alphabet background, and you can use up any of those leftover pieces and you don't feel like you have a lot of waste. So each tag front is finished now, basically. We've got our decoration with the diamonds, we have our floral cluster, and we have our monogram. Now, no, I have not done the background piece because I'm going to let all of these dry. I've got acrylic blocks on top to hold them flat. We're going to do our scalloped tag. This is the scalloped circle gift tags from Fawn. I have a white scallop and I also have a red. So the white is just some, it's also textured cardstock from Fawn, so it's got a little dot. The red is textured, but then I've got solid red for the back, which we will talk about in a bit. You will notice very similar here, but this particular little floral cluster is rustic. That's because it's left over from another video, another project, but it is that same poinsettia stamp set and stencil. I just thought it looked kind of cute on here, so I went ahead and used it. I think I had 2 of those left over and it was fantastic being able to use those. I am layering the solid stitched circle on the scalloped circle. I have the whole reinforcer. So this is really more of a tag than an ornament, but I did group it in here because both of the other styles are ornaments and the circular shape of this lends itself. And you may already have this set. So the stitched ornaments and the scalloped circle gift tags from Fawn are both old. These are both several years old and 2 of my most favorite and most often used sets from Fawn. And then the ornament from Simon Says Stamp is brand new and you may have that. It works with the stamp set, but it also works on its own if you just get the die. So really excited about that. We're gonna go ahead and do all of these scalloped gift tags just like we did the stitched ornament. Each is going to be like a little layer there for the 2-tone background. It's going to have a little floral or a little leaf and a monogram. And that is going to be it for this design before we move on to our third and final style. So definitely search your stash, see what kind of ornament dies you have. I've listed out what I've used, but you may have some other ornaments in your collection, and then find some monograms. Find a big die, or in this case where I used foil plates and dies, maybe you have stencils, stamps, whatever it is. Monograms make fantastic gift tags for the holidays. So for my third and final style, I used the circle die from the Simon Says Stamp Holiday Messages Ornaments collection, die cut from some white glitter cardstock. So that's a difference here. I'm not using the textured cardstock. This one is very simple. It's not layered on anything else. And so I liked the glitter for this, but everything else is the same. We have a tag topper, this time from the Simon Says Stamp matte silver cardstock. We have the beautiful poinsettia floral along the side, and then a monogram foiled little letter right there on our ornament. And so I'm kind of playing around. I tended to like kind of some of the smaller ones more for these, but it just whatever looked the best. We're going to adhere all of those, and then we're going to do a little work for the back of the tags, because you guys know me, if we're going to do the front, we have to have a little something on the back. Another thing about these monograms, and you're going to notice this consistently over and over, I really try to make my gift tags something that could be used either again, or you can use them for decoration. Maybe you want to hang them on your tree. Maybe you want to, like the monograms especially, you could hang them on your stocking hook with the stocking for the recipients. And that way you know what stocking goes to who if they're not, you know, monogrammed themselves or embroidered or anything like that. There's a lot of ways to use these past the holidays. And I think I mentioned this in my last video. We often reuse our tags. Yes, we may write, you know, to mom from Brendan on it or whatever, but we just kind of save the tag, put it back in our closet where we keep all of our gift wrap and tags and all ribbons and goodies. And when we are wrapping gifts for the next year, we reuse that tag. And we reuse them until, you know, we don't feel like it anymore or whatever, but I still have tags from years ago that we do that with. Okay, tag backs, woohoo! The Simon Says Stamp Let's Make a Tag is by far, hands down, my favorite for finishing off tag backs. Options, so many options. Fantastic. So the first one we're going to do, the back of the simple ornament we just did, the Holiday Messages ornament from Simon Says Stamp, we're going to stamp a gift for you and to and from using some red ink. And I think I just used BERRYLICIOUS. I say BERRYLICIOUS, maybe we use BERRYLICIOUS, maybe we use Candy Apple. I just used a red. This is, the back of this tag is die cut from the same fog cardstock, so it's a light gray, not white, but it's almost, I mean, it really almost blends in. And of course, the little floral cluster that's going to be on these tags was stamped and stenciled on fog cardstock, so it blends really nicely when you look at the back of that on the tag. You'll see that here in a minute. So this is solid, no embossing needed, which is kind of nice. I will tell you, you wouldn't have to emboss the other ones. I'm going to show you another option. Embossing does make it take a little bit more time. So now that we have all of the backs done for the glittered ornament tag, we're going to do the scalloped circle tag. This is a red solid piece. This is some chili pepper Lawn Fawn cardstock, which of course is going to coordinate with the chili pepper textured cardstock on the front, but we're not going to have to contend with the textured dot for the background. And I'm going to show you why that's important when we get to the green tag, because I did not do that for the green tag. We're going to stamp on the textured dot, and it's a little trickier. This time I'm going to stamp and emboss with embossing and watermark ink, and then heat emboss with white embossing powder. I've stamped Just For You, and then a different to and from that same Simon Says Stamp Let's Make a Tag set. We're going to do this on each one, heat emboss in white. The white really pops against the red. I absolutely love this. And it's going to take a minute. I did use a powder tool on each. When using a powder tool, please make sure that once you have let the embossing cool on each, you buff that away with a dry rag or your finger. The other thing I want to note, hole reinforcers, if you're doing tags like this and not like the ornament, and even the ornament, because there's going to be the decorative ornament topper on the front and back of each of the tags, it finishes them off beautifully. It gives a little bit more stability as well, but the hole reinforcer just looks nice. So it looks nice from either side. So I have that I will adhere once I have all of this done. So the final ornament we're going to add some stamping and embossing to, of course, is our stitched ornament. That is that first ornament that we did. I did die cut the back of the tag from the same textured dot cardstock. I have lots of these leftover sentiments from a PinkFresh Studio set. These are foiled sentiments. I grabbed them, I put them on the back because I thought they fit really nice. We are going to stamp a to and from Simon Says Stamplets, make a tag and emboss with white. I don't think it looks the best. I'm going to be completely transparent and honest. I think if I would do this again, I would have just used a black ink, even though I think black won't show up that great. But the embossing was hard over the textured dot. And it doesn't fit perfectly. So I've left that in the video because I want you to see how I did this. I actually only inked up the two and stamped that, embossed it. Then I would move the stamp. Well, I'm going to do that for all three backgrounds. Then I'm going to move the stamp and I'm going to stamp the from. Kind of a pain. I probably could have cut my stamp apart and stamped them at the same time, but I didn't want to, so I didn't. But I really think if I would do this again, to save time, black ink is the way to go, or maybe changing the back of the tag to something smooth. Textured dot is just really hard to stamp and emboss on. But that's what we're going to do to finish off the back of each of the tags, or at least stamp them with to and from. They will have that, these tags will have an extra little piece. I was trying to find ways to use up my leftover greetings because I have so many of them from my craft hour with Jeff on the PinkFresh Studio channel. We did that project, but I did one ahead of time and then I foiled it again on camera, and so I have lots and lots of sentiments and I really need to use them on cards. So those are going to be used for lots of holiday cards. I'm really excited to show you those. All right, looks like we about have our tags all stamped and embossed. I maybe have one more. Finishing details. So the finishing on the back of each, I alluded to that with the scalloped because we want to do the hole reinforcer. On the back of each tag, we also want to add the ornament topper, pardon me, for the other two styles. So those each will have either a silver or a gold ornament topper. And then we're going to finish putting it all together. So there is that holiday messages ornament set. I knew I forgot to show it to you, so I wanted to show that to you really quick. I'm buffing away any of that powder left over on my tags. And now let's put it all together. We're going to place the circles back to back. I want to line it up as good as possible, and I'm going to wait to put the ornament topper on until I have the back in place. That way I can line it up perfectly. So a little glue around the bottom and the top. We're going to pinch that together. Reverse tweezers are going to be your best friend here. I love my reverse tweezers. They got used a ton. And then I'm going to set that aside to dry while I work on the next one and the next one. I would love to hear if you have tried foiling, if you have the Ina's alphabet foil plates. This was released here not too long ago, but several weeks ago, and I know it was really popular. If it is sold out, I know I looked at Simon Says Stamp before this video. I believe the solid foil plate and the alphabet is slated to come back in stock on November 30th. I know we're at the beginning of November. I know that seems like a long way away, but maybe you could prep everything else, get those on reserve so that when they're in stock, go ahead and get them on reserve, purchase them, and when they're in stock, they'll be shipped to you, and all you have to do is foil and add that. So there's a lot of things you could do ahead of time if you want to do something similar and use this particular monogram set. Same thing here with the stitched ornament. I want to put it back to back first and then place the ornament topper so that I can get them exactly lined up in the very same place. Pinch that together. I have 2 sets of reverse tweezers going here. I have honeybee stamps and spellbinders. Then don't forget on this stitched ornament, we're going to just add some fun little foiled text to fill that out. You could even add more of the flowers on the back if you wanted to. You could do that for sure. I didn't want to because I didn't want anything to show to the front, but that is an option. And then we're going to use 2 different styles of twine. And I just use what I have. I'm a big fan of the Fawn Lawn Trimmings twine. We have red and white, and we also have more of a hemp style. And on the green tags, I opted to use more of like just the standard hemp style, and then we'll use the red and white. But I could have used red and white throughout. There's also a green and white sparkle, I believe, black and white, blue. There's a blue and white sparkle. So maybe you want, if you do like blue and maybe blue and purple or blue and white, I think that would be super pretty too. But like I said, I really just try to use up things that I have. All right, so now we're just going to trim a bunch of lawn trimmings twine. Oh, nope, I forgot scallop tag first. So placing these back to back, placing our little tag there. I love that there's still the white scallop around this. And then that whole reinforcer that I was talking about that just finishes it off so, so nicely. These are a little bit easier to place exactly because we have that little hole in each of the tags and it lines up just perfectly. Keeping fingers out of glue is really important, and I love tweezers for that. So I'm using Spellbinders tweezers, Spellbinders reverse tweezers, and Honeybee Stamps tweezers because I think you need all of the tweezers. I love them. I always have some somewhere on my desk. These little black tweezers from Spellbinders, though, have a super micro tip on them, and they're my absolute favorite. Now, a little tip, if you want the strings for your tags to all be the same length, I take one and figure out the length, and then I cut all of them that I need to the same length, and then I'll thread them through the top of my tag. Couple little notes about decorating the top of your tag. I have not done that. I didn't do that for my Hexatag shakers either, but I mentioned it there too. Sometimes I'll put some twine through the top, but I'll also put a little bit of like silk ribbon through the top and tie it in a little bow. That's a pretty elegant look. You could thread on some little jingle bells to the top of your little ornaments. That's fun. I definitely need to do that for one of the upcoming projects, I think, because I have some, and that's always really, really cute. So there are some different ways that you can adorn the top of the tag if you're not done and you want to add even more. And you'll notice I'm just very much assembly line style, threading all of these through. I love how they turned out. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Remember, if you want to see another idea for monogram tags, I will list that below. Please keep in mind that the products used for that video are old, may no longer be available. In fact, I think probably most of them are not, but I will link to it because it very much inspired a kind of updated monogram tag since I hadn't done one in so long, and they were very, very popular when I did them before, and I thought it would be really cool to revisit it several years later and just see what we could do. There's going to be a couple of those in the Handmade Holiday series this year where I'm going back and kind of redoing or remaking, re-envisioning a past project. You don't always have to start completely from scratch. I love to be inspired by previous work and maybe just kind of work with product that is new and now, and with an idea that maybe was from several years ago. So don't be afraid to kind of, go ahead and borrow from something you've created in the past and that you love. Once these are all threaded through the top, I am completely finished. The supplies I used to create these Handmade Holiday 2021 foiled monogram ornament gift tags are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another project featuring foiling that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. A huge shout out and thank you to my Patreon members. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we will see you next time.